Hi, and welcome to Erik's Correspondence Corner. First of all, I want to let you know I had a great time last week visiting with a lot of you at my Congress on Your Corner events, which are like mini town halls, getting your one-on-one direct input and advice. Also had a great teletown hall meeting this last week with a lot of feedback, which allows me to more effectively represent you. We're going to jump right into our questions, though. I did hear from Shane this week, who wrote in saying, "Dear Congressman Paulsen, as you know, Minnesota is the land of 10,000 lakes, and we Minnesotans tend to love nature and the outdoors. Yesterday I read an article about Minnesota and Mississippi rivers in the Star Tribune and about their health as a quality and the quality of the water in these riverways. As a Minnesotan, that's not what I want to hear. What can be done to ensure our waterways stay healthy and useful for future generations?" Well, first of all, Shane, thanks for writing in. I will tell you that we are fortunate to live in a state with 10,000 lakes, where these lakes and rivers are part of our heritage and who we are in terms of tourism and vacationing. A couple of things that I'm working on that will improve the health of our waterways. We've heard of invasive species, milfoil, and zebra mussels. The newest invasive species and threat to our waterways in Minnesota is the Asian carp. There are two, and by the way, these fish are a threat to about 158 other species. It's a threat to our tourism industry, which is billions of dollars, and it's a threat to a lot of jobs who depend on tourism and our waterways and lakes in Minnesota, rivers and streams, etc. I'm a co-sponsor of legislation, number one, that would prevent the fish from moving up into Minnesota off of the waterways. I'm working on that bipartisan legislation with Congressman Ellison, which is looking at potentially even closing one of the locks, the last lock in the Mississippi River if necessary. Number two, there's other bipartisan legislation that I'm working on with Congresswoman McCollum to help better coordinate and focus attention between different federal agencies of what we can do to prevent these species from also moving up the river to address the threat of Asian carp. I will tell you a big part of it, to be honest, with the Minnesota delegation being aware of this, is also educating our colleagues. These two pieces of legislation are going to continue to focus attention on how we can educate our colleagues on why this is a dangerous threat, not only to Minnesota, but to other states around the country. Also heard this week, actually, receiving a letter from Brendan in Minnetonka. And Brendan wrote in about a budget issue, which of course we've been hearing a lot about lately. He says, "I think it is crucial for us to get our budget deficit under control. I can't understand how it is possible that the Senate hasn't passed a budget in years. When will Congress get serious and pass a budget?" Great question, Brendan, actually. I will tell you that's the one I got last week at my Congress on Your Corner events. I got that same question often at the teletown hall meetings. Bottom line is, number one, we need to get spending under control. $16 trillion national deficit, nearly $1 trillion budget deficit annually for the last 4 years, and we're expected to hit that again this year. That's not good for our country's finances. A country that does not control its debt does not control its destiny. So we need to not only control spending, but also grow the economy. I'm a big proponent of tax reform, which I've talked about as a part of these Correspondence Corners discussions before. But the bottom line is this, is that in order to establish priorities and get our country's fiscal house in order, we've got to have a budget. Now, the House has passed a budget and established a vision of where we need to go on our priorities. The Senate hasn't done that for 4 years. We passed a new bill, though, last week, and now it's been signed into law that says if you don't pass a budget, you don't get paid. So now we will see the Senate pass a budget. The other bill that just passed recently, actually, in the House, is also going to make sure that the President has to submit a budget that will identify when we expect to have a balanced budget. And that bill passed the House yesterday. Those are two initiatives, I think, that are very important to educate not only our colleagues about why it's important to have a budget, but also an understanding with the public about where the country needs to go in terms of managing our fiscal house, getting our fiscal house in order, and living within our means. You're going to be hearing a lot more about the federal budget, deficits in the future, because those are the dominating issues certainly before Congress today. Want to encourage all of you to continue to stay in touch, reach out with your feedback, your input. Visit me on the website at Paulsen.house.gov, or of course you can reach me on Facebook or Twitter. And have a great week and weekend.